I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. So glad that you're joining us this afternoon on Drive Time in Los Angeles, California, and around the nation and around the world. I want to take my hat off this afternoon to the Democrats in Washington who are there at work, doing everything they can within their power to keep the government of the United States open amid a looming shutdown that is just hours away, while Democrats are in Washington willing to negotiate with the President of the United States and the administration on a bipartisan compromise stopgap measure to keep the government open. Republicans have decided to leave Washington, almost guaranteeing that the government of the United States will shut down. The consequences of a government shutdown could lead to the furlough of thousands, maybe tens of thousands of federal workers. Those workers at this hour are definitely in my thoughts and prayers because the President of the United States has shown an uncanny capacity to fire federal workers, including but not limited to the possibility of using an executive order to force the men and women of the federal government to go back to work or face termination. We've asked for the Democratic Party to stand up, to fight for us, and I believe Hakeem Jeffries and Leader Schumer are doing just that at this hour. But we must be mindful, as Hakeem Jeffries has said, Republicans control the House of Representatives. Republicans control the Senate of the United States. Republicans control the executive branch of the United States. And therefore, you really cannot blame Democrats for what could very well likely transpire with the looming government shutdown. Critical services like the nation's national security are exempt from such a shutdown, and so there are elements of the federal government that will be operational. But even as a member, for example, of the Congressional Federal Credit Union, which I joined in 1995 and has been responsible for my personal banking since 1995, I noticed a notification sent to me by my bank saying that they have furlough loans and furlough assistance for federal employees, giving some indication that these Americans may have to take out loans until such time as they receive their paychecks from the federal government, therefore exacting upon the American people even more pain, even more hard work. People's bills could potentially go in arrears. People's credit, tens of thousands of people's credit, could be overwhelmingly affected by such a shutdown. And depending upon how it lasts, how long it lasts, we may get some insight in just how far this authoritarian administration is willing to go to dismantle the federal government. There is a long history from Jefferson Davis during the American Civil War to Alexander Hamilton Stevens, his vice president, who has a statue in Statuary Hall in the capital of the United States, who wrote and said in a speech that the Confederacy is built upon one single premise. And that premise is the superiority of the white man and the inferiority of the Negro. Those are the most famous words ever uttered from the mouth of Alexander Hamilton Stevens, the vice president of the Confederacy. He has a statue in Statuary Hall, and the statue collection in the capital of the United States is the byproduct of a federal law that allows each state to send two of its favorite sons and ultimately daughters to the capital of the United States to immortalize what they stand for. And so at the end of the American Civil War, the state of Georgia sent to Washington Alexander Hamilton Stevens. And he sits there in Statuary Hall, right next to a statue that I placed in Statuary Hall immediately after her death, the Rosa Parks statue. And I thought it appropriate. It was easier for me to have Rosa Parks's statue added to the Statuary Hall collection than it was to ask the state of Georgia to remove Alexander Hamilton Stevens from the Capitol. Because, of course, under the 10th Amendment, it is their state's right to determine the statues that they want in Statuary Hall. And because Rosa Parks was not the selected daughter of, let's say, the state of Alabama or any of the states in the Union, I fought for a piece of legislation that made her purpose and her statue in Statuary Hall unique. She was added to the collection without the support of the states. When we come forward, we'll talk more about the government shutdown, the looming nature of what it means for the American people. And then in our very special next hour and next half hour, Lamel McMorris will be joining us to discuss his new book, Resilience, and what we need for such a time as this. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicolai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. Looking forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. At the bottom of the hour, we'll be joined by a new author, Dr. Lamel McMorris, who grew up in the city of Chicago in a very, very rough part, but he wrote a very, very timely book that I don't think we can afford to ignore. It's called The Power to Persist. The foreword is by Reverend Al Sharpton. I've known Lamel since I was a very, very young man, been very, very supportive of my father's work. He's traveled around the country and around the world, and the rollout of his book is nothing but extraordinary. 8 Simple Habits to Build Lifelong Resilience, and that's what we're going to need through this period. I was looking at a newspaper article, I believe in USA Today, that begins, party leaders in Congress have long criticized government shutdowns as toxic and destructive. Always a bad idea, former Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell said of the shutdowns in 2024. A potential disaster, Democratic leader Chuck Schumer of New York said of the shutdown the country narrowly avoided when he voted with Republicans to keep the government open in March. I don't think shutdowns benefit anybody, least of all the American people, Senate Majority Leader John Thune, who I served with in the Congress of the United States, said last week. Yet Congress often finds itself at the brink of one of the 2 major political parties' differences as they grow more intractable with each passing year. Democrats are threatening to vote against keeping the government open on October 1st. Schumer and House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries say they won't budge unless Republicans immediately extend health care subsidies that expire at the end of the year, among other demands. Republicans say they don't want to add any, quote, complicated policy to their, quote, clean, unquote, stopgap bill to keep the government open for the next 7 weeks. Time and time again, lawmakers hold out until just before the deadline and negotiate a last-minute compromise. But this time, Democrats see some potential political advantages to a shutdown with their base voters split and spoiling for a good fight. Well, since the Democrats are the only persons left in Washington, D.C. at this hour, Speaker Johnson sent the Republicans home, literally, on their flights to Washington, from Washington, D.C. to the other 50 states in the Union. They've all returned home. There is no doubt that unless they can all get on a plane, I guess before midnight tonight, the government of the United States will shut down, effectively putting the government of the United States out of business and allowing the President of the United States to make probably some extraordinarily drastic decisions in order to keep some elements and aspects of the government open. What Donald Trump may do, given the immunity decision of the Supreme Court of the United States, granting him great and immense power to control the government and the executive branch of the government, well, it's hard to imagine just what kind of decisions he might make under the pressure of the American people. It's so fascinating because even critical reports about job reports and labor statistics and indexes to inflation, none of these reports, which are scheduled to be released in early October, are likely to be completed on time. And these reports are critical to the market's behavior, how people choose to invest their full faith and confidence in the US dollar, in the United States system of operation, are at stake every time the government's full faith and credit is jeopardized by the potentiality and the seeming inevitability of a government shutdown in just a few short hours. But even more devastating are the consequences and the ramifications that it has for all of the American people, not the political elite in Washington, D.C., not those decision makers who we sent to Washington, D.C. to represent our best interests. The only thing that Democrats have asked for, at least on its face, are healthcare subsidies that go to the heart of the so-called big, beautiful bill, which we know is the big, ugly bill, that extends those healthcare provisions to the American people until such time as a longer and more determined budget can be adopted, hopefully in a bipartisan way by both Democrats and Republicans. So the Republicans have left town, essentially saying that there is no chance in hell that they are going to compromise with Democratic leader Jeffries and Schumer's and the respective caucus of the Democrats to keep the government open. In fact, the President of the United States had a meeting scheduled with Mr. Schumer and Mr. Jeffries just this past Thursday, and he abruptly canceled it. According to Hakeem Jeffries, when the President of the United States listened to the argument with two Republicans in the room, Republican leadership, two Democrats in the room, Mr. Schumer and Mr. Jeffries, the Democrats left the meeting feeling as if they had been able to convince the President of the United States that there was significant merit to their arguments. They even presented real-life examples of human beings, people that would be affected by the government shutdown. And if you can ever find a moment of optimism, given Hakeem Jeffries' critique of the President of the United States, which is always spot on, he seemed to suggest that the President was actually listening, actually nodding in favor, saying, hey, I didn't know. In fact, Hakeem Jeffries said the President said, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this would do that. I had no idea this would do that. You guys need to get back to the table and make sure that doesn't happen. It's almost as if the President of the United States has been isolated and insulated by the hatred and the ideology and the vitriol and the unprepared, unthoughtful speeches that he delivers every day, that when he finally got in front of people who were sharing with him the damage that he was causing and that this legislation would cause, the President seemed to balk. He balked at the idea that if this is true, you guys need to do something about that and then get this legislation back to me. Now, I'm putting words in the leader's mouth, so I was obviously not there, but I can only infer what, based on my experience, what could have taken place. I've had experiences with presidents of the United States who felt some kind of way about things that I was proposing and things that I was against or for. And when I got in front of them and explained it to them, reason seemed to prevail. And the President said, that's not a bad idea. In fact, when I added Rosa Parks' statue to Statuary Hall, right next to Alexander Hamilton Stevens, if you Google it, Rosa Parks statue, you will see me standing behind George Bush when he signs my legislation into law. Imagine that. George Bush honoring Rosa Parks by putting her statue in Statuary Hall because he was convinced that Rosa Parks' contribution, not that he didn't already know it, giving the President some credit, that her contribution was a turning point. Wow, I can't believe I used that word. A turning point in American history. It brought forward the leadership of Martin Luther King Jr., another turning point in American history. It brought forward the Montgomery bus boycott, a turning point in American history. It brought forward, ultimately, the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, subsequent public housing legislation between 67 and 68, some of which passed in large measure because of the tragic assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. So there are these turning points. Now, this government shutdown is quite different than other government shutdowns because I was listening very carefully to a speech that Secretary of Defense, War Defense, Secretary of Defense, I guess he's the Secretary of War. It was the most outrageous speech that I heard in a long time when he was speaking to military generals from around the country. He received no significant, in fact, he received no applause from the myriad scores of 2 and 3 and 4-star generals who were in attendance at the Pentagon today. But it was a speech delivered with the kind of bravado that we haven't seen since, in my opinion, World War I or World War II. In fact, I can only compare the Secretary of Defense's speech and the President's follow-up speech shortly thereafter this morning, that they, for some reason, feel it necessary to put the most powerful military in human history on some kind of war footing without an opponent. I mean, who are we going to fight with stealth bombers and battleships and submarines, all nuclear tipped? Who are we going to fight with satellites that circumvent the globe and even, in some cases, the universe itself? We're looking for aliens that may approach our planet. to give you some idea of just how outrageous the $1 trillion increase in military spending, the first time in American history, the first time in the history of the world, a nation is going to spend $1 trillion a year on its defense. To fight who? The Houthis? Somalians? The Venezuelans? For decades, we built up our military defense, and I lived through most of those Cold War decades, at least the modern Cold War decades. I was born in 1965. The Cold War probably started immediately after World War II. We have spent so much money on defense in this nation that we don't have to spend another dollar, and we're already 10 times more powerful with more ammunition than any nation stockpiled in human history. We still have bullets from World War II that we haven't used. And yet, trillions of dollars under the Trump administration are now going to weapons of mass destruction to fight who? Nations that have militaries that are essentially made of sticks and stones by comparison? When we can fly stealth bombers tens of thousands of miles without landing, drop precision munitions on a country, in this case, Iran, come back home and boast about it. And some of these countries, excluding Iran, don't even have air forces. Pete Hegseth's speech today talked about a lethality for America's men and women on the scale that we did not even hear President Roosevelt offer against the Nazis themselves. A lethality, meaning, and he was very specific, we're no longer defending the United States. We want to win war. They want these conflicts to be brutal, to be lethal, to incapacitate nations. And therefore, I can only imagine that the true agenda of this government under Donald Trump is an expansionist kind of neo-colonialism, which we've always known has existed. But at the bottom of this thinking, at least in my mind, are the targets of critical minerals around the world. Critical minerals that they need for microchips, critical minerals that we need for iPhones, critical minerals that we need for laptops, these little green boards that they stick these Intel Pentium chips, Intel Core into in order for us to have the conveniences of artificial intelligence and the conveniences that we've come to enjoy as Americans. What is the purpose of $1 trillion military budget? It's to aim major weaponry in negotiations for trade at some of the poorest nations on earth to set the terms by which they extract critical minerals to continue to drive the American economy and the global technology economy, the billionaire economy. That's the kind of expansion that I think is actually taking place here. Let's go back to the government shutdown. In September 17th, 1787, the Republic is founded. An executive branch, a House of Representatives, and the judiciary of the United States. The Republic. But the American people themselves, after Benjamin Franklin walked out of Liberty Hall and bumped into Mrs. Powell, she said, "What kind of government did you guys set up in there?" essentially. And he said, "A republic if you can keep it." That's what we set up, a republic. But just a few short years later, the American people, quite frankly, were already tired of the republic. By 1791, they said, no, the Revolutionary War that we fought wasn't about a government in the hands of a few people. It was about a government of, for, and by the people. And therefore, we want a First Amendment to protect Quite frankly, when we read yesterday the First Amendment, it is a religion. If you look at all of the rights that an individual has in the First Amendment, a Second Amendment, guns to protect that right, and other amendments to the Constitution that also allowed for the preservation of slavery and injustice on a scale that the world had never seen, and justified it in the name of what would eventually become democracy. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. These are very difficult times for all of the American people, certainly for African Americans, certainly for the people of Los Angeles and for our country, and it's not over yet. When we come forward, Lamel J. McMorris, Dr. Lamel J. McMorris will be our very special guest, and we're going to talk about his new book, The Power to Persist. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More when we come forward.
You're riding with Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. House Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries is slamming an AI-generated video posted by President Trump. Jeffries called the video depicting him in a sombrero racist and disgusting.
Don't cop out to a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face.
Jeffries accused Republicans of being on vacation as a government shutdown looms. Speaking of the shutdown, Democrats are pushing to extend health care assistance that expires at the end of the year. Republicans insist their stopgap spending bill is final. The government will partially shut down Wednesday at 12:01 a.m. Eastern if they can't reach a deal. And Tilly Norwood, an AI actress, is said to be close to signing a deal with a Hollywood talent agency. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The stage is set for MLB's postseason.
How good was that?
October hits different. Watch baseball at its finest. Postseason 2025. Major League Baseball. Trademarks used with permission.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers kick off their quest for a back-to-back World Series championship tonight at Dodger Stadium against the Cincinnati Reds. Game 1 in the best-of-5 first-round series jumps off at 6. Live coverage on ESPN. Cincinnati's starting pitcher tonight is Hunter Green, a young brother who grew up in L.A. The 25-year-old Green is in his 4th season with Cincinnati. The Reds selected Green with the number 2 overall pick in the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. The 6'5" right-hander was a marquee player at Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks. In April of 2017, Green was featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated after one of his fastballs was clocked at 102 miles per hour. Green is a product of Major League Baseball's Urban Youth Academy in Compton. Should be an interesting matchup tonight between Green and the Dodgers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
I'm still going for it, even with higher stroke risk from atrial fibrillation, an irregular heartbeat not caused by a heart valve problem. Over a 3-year study, Eliquis apixaban tablets reduced stroke risk better than warfarin, and over 97% of Eliquis patients did not experience a stroke. A first stroke occurred in 2.9% of warfarin patients versus 2.3% of Eliquis patients.
Don't stop prescription Eliquis without asking your doctor. Stroke risk may increase. Eliquis can cause serious and potentially fatal bleeding. Don't take if you have an artificial heart valve, abnormal bleeding, or antiphospholipid syndrome. While taking, you may bruise more easily or bleed longer. A spinal injection increases blood clot risk, which may cause paralysis. Get medical help right away for unexpected bleeding or bruising, or back pain, tingling, numbness, muscle weakness, or incontinence. Aspirin products, NSAIDs, SSRIs, SNRIs, and blood thinners increase bleeding risk. Tell your doctor about planned medical or dental procedures. Learn more at Eliquis.com or call 1-855-ELIQUIS.
Stop settling for weak sound. It's time to level up your game and bring the boom. Hit the town with the ultra-durable LG X Boom portable speaker and enjoy vibrant sound wherever you go. Elevate your listening experience to new heights because, let's be real, your music deserves it. The future of sound is now with LG X Boom. And for a limited time, save 25% at LG.com with code FALL25. Bring the boom. X Boom.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-259-9922. 800-259-9922. That's 800-259-9922.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Talk 1580. These are times where we are going to have to be resilient. Expecting our guest to come into the program in just a moment, but I want to talk about some of the concepts in his new book, which I find absolutely fascinating and absolutely necessary. Of course, the foreword is written by none other than Dr. Reverend Al Sharpton, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm also going to be soon on Lamel McMoore's The Power to Persist podcast, which should be airing sometime early next week. He has a number of examples, habits that we need to focus on to build lifelong resilience. I just want to go through some of these right quick. First of all, we need to approach challenges with a growth mindset. Lamel argues, view challenges as opportunities to enhance your skill set. Be willing to learn. The moment we stop learning is the moment we stop growing. Seek out ways to learn from others. We are social creatures, and as such, we can all benefit from and learn from one another. Now, as much as I disagree with what's taking place in Washington, I'm learning from it. I'm not a turtle who's sticking my head in a shell, making assumptions that the entire world has come to an end. My anxiety is not rising because the government is going to shut down. No matter how difficult this moment is, I have to approach what's going on, the flexing and the stretching of our constitutional values, with a growth mindset. That's one of Mr. McMorris's examples. And there are a number of others that are applicable to what's going on in our country today. The second, nurture relationships. Maintaining contact with coworkers, family, friends, neighbors, and others is important to our happiness. Be open about things that have gone well or poorly in your career, your business, and life. Doing so can help heal, alleviate the pressure, and feel part of something more. It's possible to find resilience in good relationships. When I was on Capitol Hill, I didn't just look at the other side of the aisle. I disagreed with mostly everything that Newt Gingrich, with his contract with America, brought forward. But I looked over in the midst of the cloud of all that represented, and I found someone that I absolutely disagree with politically, morally, and spiritually, even though he was a great practicing Catholic, and I'd like to think I was a great practicing Protestant. My good friend became Henry Hyde. Nurtured relationships. And other than my father, no one has taken me around the world on government trips to do government business on behalf of the people more than the late Congressman Henry Hyde. We were strange bedfellows. We even connected the 2nd Congressional District of Illinois to his congressional district in very meaningful ways. On his side of town, there are 3 jobs for every 1 person, and in my district, there were 3 people for every 1 job. And he showed me how to build projects that were self-financing, public-private partnerships to create growth and development on my side of town. No government funding, not from the state, not from the federal government, not just going to Washington and pushing yes, no, present, walking off the House floor and telling the world how I voted, as if that changed meaningfully the lives of the people in the area that I voted in. He said, no, Jesse, we got to do business, because business working with government creates jobs and brings Amazon and UPS and Federal Express to our area. I think I'm getting a signal from my producer that Mr. Lamel McMorris is here. Is Dr. Morris here? Okay,
I am, sir.
Hi, Dr. McMorris. How are you?
How are you, my friend?
Great. I am so glad that you're here, and welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
I'm glad to be here, and so proud of you, and so proud of what you're doing here in this medium and the messages that you're sharing with the audience. So honored to be here.
Lamel, I have about 3 minutes before I come forward, and I'd like you to share with us about this book, how you came to arrive at this subject matter. It's obviously a life's work. And then after the break, we'll come forward for our final 10 minutes in this segment. Lamel, please share with us what motivated you and why this book is so appropriate for this time with all that we're going through.
I did not set out to write a book, Jesse. I set out to answer a question I've been asked my entire career, and that is, how do you keep going? We're living right now in a time of disruption, layoffs, polarization politically, health crisis, the advent of AI and technology. The Power to Persist gives 8 simple, repeatable habits for building resilience. It's not just about me and my story. It's about equipping you and your listeners and all of us with tools to adapt and thrive. So resilience in this sense that I offer isn't just a theory, it's a practice. This book makes persistence teachable and repeatable.
I find that fascinating. When you say it's not just a theory, it's a practice, expound on that for us.
I mean, literally, we have to operate and act in a resilient manner on a daily basis. And it's these habits, our attitude, our dogged determination, our faith, the relationships. You just finished talking about the power of relationships. These, to your point, are ways that we build resilience, not just theoretically, but practically in our everyday lives.
I am excited and very proud of this book because I'm looking for the spiritual undertoning here, if you will, in ways that I just don't get it from reading my own Bible. I get it from my pastor, Reverend James Meeks, and Pastor Charlie Dates, and Howard John Wesley over the last couple of days has been inspiring.
Yes, he has.
Telling us that in this moment, there are some habits that we need to develop, that we need to practice, that include mindfulness and others. We have about a minute before we come forward, Lamel, about some of those practices.
No, let me tell you the one directly to the point you were just making. The last habit that I speak about is faith. And faith, to your point, can just be kind of this out there concept. But for us in the Christian faith, we define it as the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I submit, Jesse, that when you and I come to the understanding that we are the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, for those ancestors and friends and grandparents who believed in us, who never could have imagined where we are today, that is a concept of faith that builds and leads us towards resilience.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our very special guest in this hour is Dr. Lamel McMorris. Dr. McMorris, we have another segment coming forward in just a moment, but I do want you to know I expect you to come back and spend a full hour with us when you are, of course, in the right location. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More with Dr. Lamel McMorris when we come forward.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. SMP volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an SMP open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit caSMPvolunteer.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and Brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. LA County's new Justice Care and Opportunities Department, or JCOD, is here to support justice-involved individuals and their families. The JCOD Support Center is now taking calls at 1-833-LACJCOD. That's 1-833-522-5263. Available 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., the Support Center is your one-stop shop for re-entry issues and court support. They offer court reminders, connections to local services, transportation assistance for housing, court appearances, and childcare. The JCOD hotline provides personalized help to connect you with services that you need. And don't forget to check out justiceconnect.org for more information. Remember, it's free and available every day at 1-833-522-5263. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Do you owe $10,000 or more in credit card debt or personal loans? With credit card debt at all-time highs, Debt Relief Advocates is urgently notifying consumers of debt relief now being made available, designed to aid consumers with out-of-control credit card debt. Those who qualify and enroll for this relief program will only have to pay back a fraction of what they owe. This is not bankruptcy or a debt consolidation loan. This is a relief program that credit card companies would rather you not know about, as it ends your debt nightmare and saves you lots of money. Consumers owing at least $10,000 in credit card debt or personal loans can now take advantage of this debt relief as the cost of living skyrockets. Debt Relief Advocates has established a relief hotline for you to call to learn what debt reduction you may qualify for, so don't wait. For this free information, call the Relief Hotline at 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493, 800-515-4493.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in this hour is Dr. Lamel McMorris, who is a nationally recognized leader at the intersection of business, justice, and social impact, and the author of The Power to Persist, 8 Simple Habits to Build Lifelong Resilience. In his debut book, Dr. McMorris shares the mindsets and habits that fueled his rise from Chicago's South Side to the national stage, offering readers a practical blueprint for turning challenges into opportunities and pressure into purpose. Building on the book's mission, he launched the Power to Persist podcast, where he sits down with changemakers, leaders, and innovators for candid conversations on resilience, justice, and transformative leadership. Each episode delivers real stories and actionable insights designed to help listeners navigate obstacles and lead with impact. Dr. McMorris, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. McMorris, if I can follow up on this question of faith. It seems to be waning in this hour, both personal faith and even faith in our Constitution. Take your time, Doc.
You know, I grew up on the South Side of Chicago, as you just mentioned. I saw both struggle and community strength. Life taught me, Jesse, to view setbacks, and you've been to my childhood home on at 66 in Cottage Grove in the Woodlawn community in Chicago. You know, life taught me to view setbacks as opportunities. You know, I was forced to do this. It was either give up or have this perspective. I chose to take the perspective of faith, of determination, that every obstacle became an opportunity to practice persistence. That same persistence can carry anyone through, students, family, leaders. My story, your story, is proof that persistence works, but it's also a roadmap for anyone facing obstacles. There is no substitute for faith, believing on the things that, even though we can't see the outcomes that we seek, we keep moving forward until the day that we do.
So, Lamel, you take stepping stones, you turn them into cornerstones, and hence foundations for moving forward.
Amen. Absolutely. Which is consistent with our faith. It's consistent with our history. You know, I cannot, and you know this, I cannot talk about my journey of resilience and being persistent without talking about Reverend Jesse L. Jackson Sr. Your listeners should know, not only have I had the remarkable opportunity to be an intern in your congressional office, but I was also special assistant to your father, and to view the nation and the world through his eyes, especially as I think about his 84th birthday next week. Most, if not all, of the habits I espouse in this book, The Power to Persist, I gained and were reinforced during my time with your father.
Mm, mm. You know, Lamel, in this moment, reflecting upon Dad's life and the extraordinary contributions that he's made, I should share with our listeners that Dr. Lamel McMorris is one of the most trusted advisors and has been for decades of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. He's also a trusted advisor of Reverend Al Sharpton and Mark Morial and the entire, if you will, African American Leadership Corps. And that's just on the social justice side, let alone his access to the global business community, simply respected. And when he talks about stepping stones and moving to cornerstones, this is not theory. This is practice, and it has positioned you very well, respectfully, in the minds of some of the nation's leaders.
Yeah, but you know what? And I'm so glad you went there because number one, your listeners should know that I am so grateful and humbled by my journey and the level of exposure that I've had to leaders like yourself, your father, and all of those that you just mentioned. But resilience is not just personal. It's actually organizational and, watch this, Jesse, communal. Businesses, healthcare, schools, various sectors of business from energy to telecom to technology, social justice movements. All of us need resilience to survive and, frankly, to move forward together, especially right now in these urgent times, again, of layoffs, public health challenges, racial injustice, and rapid technological change. Resilience is how we build systems that last and communities that move forward together. Resilience is no longer optional. It's the through line through every industry and every community.
I know that I'm going to be a guest on your pod show sometime next week. Of course, I want you to share with everyone that date, but I also want to be clear that part of what we discussed, and I shared with you that when we arrive at the idea of persistence, the power to persist, when we arrive at the idea of resilience, it usually means that we've gone through something. It usually means that we are responding to something like suffering. We're responding to something. And so I don't want our listeners to skip past the idea that you must first acknowledge that within your space, there is something that persistence is the response to it, that resilience is the reaction to it. Lamel?
Listen, a wise preacher on the south side of Chicago once said that you can't get to the glory without the story. Your dad said very clearly to us that if we get knocked down today, that's on the person that knocked us down. But if we're still there next week, that's on us. We have a responsibility and an opportunity to get up every time we get knocked down. And let me tell you something. I gotta say this to your listeners. I had a chance to preview again last night the episode of the Power to Persist podcast, where you will appear next week. My friends who are listening, I know you get a chance to hear him and see him on a daily basis, but I submit to you, please tune in to the Power to Persist podcast with Jesse Jackson Jr. next week. We not only preview some good news that's coming, but he shows us a side of him that I've not seen before, given his journey, given his persistence, given what he's been through. I cannot wait for your listeners to tune in to the Power to Persist podcast next week.
I can't wait either. Would love to have everyone's feedback. Lamel, let me ask you this one question.
Yes, sir.
First of all, how's your mother doing?
My friend, I'm so appropriate. I am literally making my way to Chicago for her birthday, her 88th birthday on Thursday. Wow. So she is doing just fine. I cannot wait to celebrate her and feed her all day long on Thursday in Chicago.
My father's birthday is on Wednesday, and that is his 85th birthday. And so right. they are right there together. Lamel, in our final minute, before we come forward, can you share with our listeners a word of hope?
Despite of what is before us. Despite of all that we've endured, both the good and the bad, we're still standing. And the fact that we're still standing demonstrates that we have the power to persist.
Please go to lamelmcmorris.com/the power to persist. lamelmcmorris.com, the power to persist. Lamel, congratulations on your new book.
Thank you, my dear friend.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. House Minority Speaker Hakeem Jeffries is slamming an AI-generated video posted by President Trump. Jeffries called the video depicting him in a sombrero racist and disgusting.
Don't cop out to a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face.
Jeffries accused Republicans of being on vacation as a government shutdown looms. Speaking of the shutdown, Democrats are pushing to extend health care assistance that expires at the end of the year. Republicans insist their stopgap spending bill is final. The government will partially shut down Wednesday at 12:01 a.m. Eastern if they can't reach a deal. And Tilly Norwood, an AI actress, is said to be close to signing a deal with a Hollywood talent agency. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The stage is set for MLB's postseason.
How good was that?
October hits different. Watch baseball at its finest. Postseason 2025. Major League Baseball. Trademarks used with permission.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers kick off their quest for a back-to-back World Series championship tonight at Dodger Stadium against the Cincinnati Reds. Game 1 in the best-of-5 first-round series jumps off at 6. Live coverage on ESPN. Cincinnati starting pitcher tonight is Hunter Green, a young brother who grew up in L.A. The 25-year-old Green is in his 4th season with Cincinnati. The Reds selected Green with the number 2 overall pick in the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. The 6'5" right-hander was a marquee player at Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks. In April of 2017, Green was featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated after one of his fastballs was clocked at 102 miles per hour. Green is a product of Major League Baseball's Urban Youth Academy in Compton. Should be an interesting matchup tonight between Green and the Dodgers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
Hello, KBLA delegation. Tavis Smiley here. On Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech becomes the epicenter of ideas that matter. The Left Coast Forum is bringing together voices that challenge, inspire, and illuminate with keynote presentations from people like noted economist Richard Wolff, the man who breaks down capitalism in ways that make sense to working folk like you and me, and Dr. Cornel West will be there, the brilliant philosopher and activist who never stops fighting for justice and speaking truth to power and to the powerless for that matter. So this isn't just another conference. This is where ideas get tested, where the conversations that shape our future begin. Multiple plenary sessions, dynamic speakers, real talk about the issues that impact our communities, and then some good food and a live band. Saturday, October 25th, LA Trade Tech, Left Coast Forum. The event is free and open to the public, but you must register at our KBLA1580.com website, where you can also peep the plenary topics. The future belongs to those who show up and engage. So don't just think about change, be part of the conversation that creates it. The Left Coast Forum is brought to you by the LA Progressive, the Empowerment Congress, Community Coalition, Partnership for Growth LA, Southwest Voter Registration Education Project, LA Care Health Plan, United Teachers Los Angeles, Black Progressive Action Coalition, St. John's Community Health, the National Lawyers Guild, the Weingart Foundation, and more. Space is limited, so if I were you, I'd register right now at KBLA1580.com. Your voice matters, your presence matters. We'll see you there.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. It's Tenacious Tuesdays on the Grind with Barbara Arnwine. Barbara is the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, internationally renowned for contributions on critical justice issues, including the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1991 and the reauthorization of the 2006 provisions of the Voting Rights Act. Currently, she also serves as the co-chair and facilitator of the National Commission for Voter Justice, the Millennial Votes Matters convenings, and the Voting Rights Alliance. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
It's good to see you. It was so wonderful to see you last week.
It was wonderful.
Awesome.
It was wonderful to see you, Barbara. I want to talk with you about three things and anything else you want to talk about. Let me first start with our mutual friend, Dr. Lamel McMorris, who's celebrating the release of his new book, The Power to Persist. And check this copy out. I mean, it's so simple. The Power of Modesty from Dr. McMorris. He's got a stoplight at the top of this book, a stoplight, and red, yellow, but green is highlighted, that we have this power within us to stop, to pause, or to go. And I'm thinking that Dr. McMorris is trying to tell us, when we were, for example, together at the Congressional Black Caucus last week, that the CBC, your organizations, you see the green light. It's time to go. Barbara?
Absolutely. And go full force, full throttle, because your enemies are going. It's so important for us right now to unite. I believe the theme of the CBC was, we are built for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I always love to say that we are called in this moment. That we're called forth to be here. I mean, think about it. You could have been born any year. You could, there's people yet to be born, but it's those of us who have been born, lived through the various decades and crises, who have built up the knowledge base, who can navigate and help guide people through this time. We have that experience, we have that knowledge base, but without that, we would misguide and we would mislead people. So it's so critical for us to understand the calling that's upon us, the demand that's upon us, the opportunity that is here, the challenges that are present, but we know how to deal with those. And the question is, can we unite to do that? And that's why I loved hearing about the conference coming up.
Barbara, what were your big takeaways from the CBC?
I thought the biggest takeaway is that the Trump policies are hurting us as a people. Everybody talked about the 300,000+ Black women who are out of jobs. Everyone talked about and saw how fewer people were at the CBC. And that's a result of all of these attacks and destruction of DEI policies and the unemployment of Blacks and the troops in the streets. A lot of people told me they weren't coming to DC because of the troops and that they weren't going to subject themselves to that nonsense. So I think that there's no doubt that his policies are hurting us. And we heard more about healthcare dilemmas this time. We heard less about public investment. We heard about, some private investment opportunities, but less about public investment. We heard less about political power. In fact, it was all under the threat because of the Voting Rights Act and what this court might do, as we've been discussing on this show in the Calais case and in other cases that it has before it. So the fact that you heard the number, right? 23 CBC members could lose their seats if, in fact, the Calais case is successful And if the Calais case results in the declaration that majority minority districts are unconstitutional, 23 of the current civil CBC members. That means less Black political power, less Black say-so over the public agenda of this nation.
I find that fascinating because that's exactly what I've been talking about. More on that when we come forward. I do want to share that I witnessed the same somber mood that you felt. Less sponsorship at the CBC, less people at the CBC, a somber mood. And anytime the distinguished gentleman from South Carolina, Jim Clyburn's symposium was on Reconstruction. Imagine that, not talking about AI and going forward, but Reconstruction. And that some of the more thoughtful members were reflecting upon where we are in this moment and just how critical it is that we could lose representation. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is Tenacious Tuesdays with the most tenacious host that we have, attorney Barbara Arnwine on KBLA Talk 1580. More when we come forward on The Grind with Barbara Arnwine.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Do Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis symptoms keep coming back? Tremfya, guselkumab, may help, with rapid remission achieved at 12 weeks and lasting clinical remission at 1 year. Some even saw visible improvement of their intestinal lining at 12 weeks and 1 year. Tremfya is a prescription medicine used to treat adults with moderately to severely active Crohn's disease and adults with moderately to severely active ulcerative colitis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or if you need a vaccine. Healing is possible with Tremfya. Approximately 3 out of 10 patients were in endoscopic remission at 1 year, based on areas visualized on colonoscopy, which may not represent the deeper bowel layer or entire GI tract. Individual results may vary. Ask your doctor about Tremfya today. Call 1-800-526-7736 to learn more or visit tremfyaradio.com.
With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte. Let's preserve Black land stories before they're lost forever. I want to personally invite you to be a part of something historic. As journalist in residence for the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, I've joined forces with powerhouse attorney and social justice champion George Fothery, the man who helped make history by delivering justice to the Bruce family in Manhattan Beach, securing the first known return of land unjustly taken from Black owners by a local government. That victory was monumental, but it was just the beginning. For generations, Black families have acquired land through grit, faith, and determination, only to lose it through violence, legal loopholes, forced sales, and systematic racism. What's been taken goes far beyond dirt and deeds. It's the erasure of wealth, identity, and legacy. That's why we've launched the Black Land Lost Narrative Archive Project, a national effort to collect, protect, and preserve the stories of Black land lost before they're buried, forgotten, or erased altogether. Because there's power in telling Black stories, there is resistance in remembering, and there's justice in being seen and heard. This is where you come in. We're inviting you to be a part of this historic Black narrative archive. If you or someone you know has experienced land loss, displacement, or forced property sales, your story deserves to be heard and remembered. Your story belongs in this archive. Your truth matters not just to your family, but to our collective future. Visit blacklandlost.org today. Fill out our simple intake form and add your voice to the National Archive of Remembrance, Resilience, and Reckoning. Let's make these stories live on, not in whispers, but on the record. With a KBLA Talk 1580 editorial, I'm Dr. Nicordelai Corte, and as always, we welcome your feedback.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest on Tenacious Tuesdays is always on the grind with none other than attorney Barbara Arnwine, the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Always good to be here.
Barbara, let me ask you this question, because I think the 23 number, as a result of the Calais decision, is conservative.
Yes.
I think
A
we
lot
could
of
use
people
as many
say
as
half.
30. I think it could cut it in half.
That's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying one half. But 23 is, and remember, folks, I don't want anyone to get confused. This doesn't mean they automatically have to step out of their jobs, that they'll automatically lose jobs. It's going to be court case after court case after court case after court case. There's going to be electoral mess, nonsense, confusion. It's going to be a lot. So I don't want people to just think that automatically you're going to look up and your congressperson is gone the next day. But there will be fights, because people are going to say, hey, they don't belong there. Hey, nobody needs to count their votes. Hey, you have no idea what this GOP Congress will do. So I just think it's so important, everyone, to pay attention to what's happening. You know what I've been saying, because you heard me say it on this show, and I said it all over the CBC. October the 15th, meet us outside the Supreme Court. October the 15th, be there. Don't be talking about, oh, I didn't feel good, or I just didn't like, what's going on. Ain't gonna make no difference. You better get out in these streets and try to make a difference. And so
You ain't lying.
Come
You
out
ain't lying. We got to get out in these streets now.
I mean, come on now. So we want to see you outside of the Supreme Court on October the 15th at 9 a.m. in the morning. We'll be there until 12:30. Come on.
Barbara,
Get
let me
out
ask
there.
you.
Come, join us.
Barbara, before we get to the shutdown and what that means and the
Oh,
consequences,
Lord, have mercy.
there's been a lot of talk about Democratic leadership. I got up this morning to one of these CNN polls that are usually very, very comprehensive, and it says that new polling from CNN suggests that the Democratic Party has no confidence in its leadership. The Democratic Party's base believes that their party is ineffective in rising to the occasion of this hour. Now, in this moment, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer and the Democrats are in Washington. They went to work while Speaker Johnson has sent the Republican members home, giving us every indication that the looming government shutdown is going to be an inevitability, that it is going to happen. How long it will happen, we don't know. But can you share with all of our listeners the consequences of a government shutdown?
Severe. People, if you are dependent on different kinds of federal services and federal aid, remember, nothing functions if people aren't getting paid. Last time we saw a whole lot of providers, you might recall this, Jesse, that there were a whole lot of providers who went ahead doing programs, and they got caught up because ultimately some of them never got reimbursed for the programming they did. So I don't think you're going to see a lot of agencies going ahead, private agencies and companies going ahead and providing services because of that horrible experience with the last shutdown. Also, I think people forget that, you won't have a person you can call in Congress. You're not going to have staff because they won't be working, right? You're not going to have, so if you have an emergency and an occurrence, it should mean that there would be, less troop presence, etc. But nah, they're going to spend that money. They're going to find a way to get around the shutdown. So I just think, it will hurt a lot of people. And remember what's at stake, folks. There are 4 major bills that have to be reauthorized, and that are important to the operation of this country. But one of the problems that people don't know is that 24 million people are set to lose their health care at the end of December. And so the Democrats have decided that they're going to fight for those 24 million. regardless of what you hear on the news, because you're not hearing much. They're not doing a good job of covering what the debate is. They're just covering all the sensationalism of, Trump not meeting with people, whatever. It's what's at stake is this healthcare. Remember, my position as Barbara Arnwine on this show is that they want people to die. So when you are calling them and saying, "Oh, don't you, this is horrible. Don't you realize people are going to die? We need your support." They've already made a decision. They want people to die. And they think it's going to, just like in the early days of COVID. Who's forgotten those early days when they thought it was only Black people getting COVID? Remember, they didn't care. We had all kinds of issues. And then when COVID became more prevalent and more people of all races were dying, all of a sudden, it became a crisis. But they want people to die. And it's not just Black folks. It's not just brown folks. They want some white folks to die because they think they're too poor, too challenging to the economy, and they don't want to provide the services because they rather cut our revenues in the government for tax cuts for the rich than to provide services to the poor. So they hate the poor of all races. So don't get it confused. I think a lot of people are confused out there about what's going on.
Barbara, unlike previous government shutdowns, there's a big elephant in the room.
Go ahead.
And the elephant is the President of the United States has an unusual power that previous presidents did not have during government shutdowns, or they were not willing to exercise those powers, even if they did have them, because the constitutionality of the exercisation, if you will, or the exercising of those powers could be challenged in a federal court. And so presidents previously would not be willing to go there. What does it mean to have a president with this kind of immunity during a government shutdown? What is it that he can do that could cause great damage to the republic, to the Constitution, and to our nation in the midst of a government shutdown?
Well, you've already heard what he said. He said he's going to fire people. That instead of that to make their wealthy people happy with these tax cuts and more tax cuts in the future, he's going to fire federal workers. He's going to use that authority during the shutdown because there's no authorization to actually fire federal workers, which is something he wants to do. Remember, folks, the fascism pyramid, the fascism diagram, the fascism playbook. Part of the playbook is to get rid of the federal sector. That unless it's militarized and is totally loyal to you, then you want to get rid of those independent, brilliant, smart people who can say, no, 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 that's not what the Constitution allows, who holds you accountable, who makes things run efficiently, who are anti-corruption, who are whistleblowers. I mean, they don't want that. They want to get rid of federal workers. That's always, remember, everything independent is what they want to destroy. The independent sector, all of us who are nonprofit organizations like my organization, they want to get rid of us. You saw, if you missed it, on September the 25th, your president issued a memorandum, not an EO, because he knows he can't do it legally, so he likes to create confusion. He issued a executive memorandum, an executive action requiring the investigation of nonprofits who have been in dissent against him, including the Open Societies, that's headed up by, funded by George Soros, other organizations talking about we can lose our nonprofit status, talking about we can be prosecuted and punished for our positions because he doesn't want dissent. So anything independent, the law firms, that's why he went after law firms. Law firms have tremendous power. Did you see the really great development today? I don't know if people saw it because it hasn't been publicized, is that today 850 law firm partners under the name of the United Association of Law Firm Partners filed an amicus brief on behalf of the American Bar Association fighting against Trump's restrictions on and threats against law firms. 850 partners. They talked about his effort to strip the legal profession of its independence. The attack on the courts, judges who don't rule the way he wants them to, but they really focused on his attack on law firms and trying to put them out of business. So I think, everybody, we're at a very dangerous path right now on towards fascism, and unless we get out there and fight it, there's going to be no independent sector, no independent academies, academic institutions. Everybody will be under his thumb and his control. And if you saw his speech today, folks,
wasn't that awful? Wasn't that awful?
Please, folks, go watch it. He's deranged. He's unhinged. I mean, he's delusional. That speech is so bad.
And the one before it, the Hegseth speech, was
right,
full of bravado and nonsense.
Come on. I mean, if some of us did this, we would be sitting up in front of a psych right now to verify that we are of sound mind.
Barbara, in this moment, I'm thinking that your march on October 15th, which we all need to attend,
yes,
to defend the Voting Rights Act of 1965.
Yes.
I'm thinking that you could have as many furloughed and federal employees in that march challenging the Supreme Court's behavior, not just on the Voting Rights Act,
yes,
but also on the fact that they will not be paid.
You got it. And or have been fired.
Or have been fired.
This is madness, folks. Voigt, who is the head of OMB, who helped to write Project 2025, is losing his mind. He's so happy. This is what they want. They want the ability to exercise total power without any accountability. And the worst thing about their power grab and their power hungriness is that they're so corrupt. They're so corrupt. They're so money hungry. They're so corrupt. They're so anti, or somebody calls it extra territorial or extra constitutional. When you look at what they're trying to do, they don't want to abide by any constitution. They don't want to abide by any guidelines. They want to do what the hell they feel like when they feel like it. And most of that is negative towards people who are poor, towards people who are African American, towards people who are, Latino, who are, immigrants, towards, anybody. Folks need to understand, how much they even hate women having the right to vote. We are at a dangerous point. Don't sit there and say, well, no, it hasn't affected me yet. You're dreaming. Some people in Portland thought that yesterday, right? 2 days ago. And now all of a sudden they got
the army in there.
You got it.
And Chicago thought that they might have avoided the idea of what has taken place in Los Angeles.
Memphis.
The president has said they're coming, and they're on their way to Memphis.
Nolens.
Wow. Isn't that something?
It's sickening, because if he had his way, he would have the military in every American city and have the military dictating all of our rights. And folks, that's not a democracy. That's called, tyranny. And if you don't know what tyranny looks like, then you better learn. Because I have been in countries where there are no democracies and where you have an authoritarian in power and rule. It is frightening.
Barbara,
it is deeply distressing to live in a society.
We have about a minute and 30 seconds before we come forward. I'd like your thoughts on what seems to be also persisting, and that is the American people in the Democratic base is losing confidence in its leadership. Is there a remedy for that? Is there anything that
New
can be done?
leadership.
Yeah.
New leadership. Listen, I have had to deal year after year with Democratic quote leaders who have said nasty things about our advocacy. When I say our advocacy, I'm talking about the civil rights community. Who have you've seen the articles talking about they're mad at the civil rights community because we want them to pass the Voting Rights Act. Think about this. The Freedom to Vote Act in 2021. We said pass it. They said, oh, they're just pushing us for no reason. We said pass that John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. They said, oh, they're just pushing us for no reason. They were in the papers complaining about the groups for asking them to pass those actions.
Barbara, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Barbara Arnwine when we come forward.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. World leaders are awaiting Hamas's response to a peace plan proposed by President Trump. Trump said he'll give Hamas 3 or 4 days to respond.
The Arab countries are signed up. The Muslim countries are all signed up. Israel's all signed up. We're just waiting for Hamas.
If Hamas rejects the deal, Trump says he'll let Israel, quote, go and do what they have to do, end quote. Many big-name comedians are criticizing their fellow A-listers for taking a huge payday from Saudi Arabia. A comedy festival in Saudi Arabia is attracting big names like Dave Chappelle. Some comedians don't agree with the decision, pointing out the Saudi government ordered the execution of a journalist and has a horrific human rights record. And next Monday, McDonald's will bring back its popular Monopoly sweepstakes game for the first time in nearly a decade. Get BIN News now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
The stage is set for MLB's postseason.
How good was that?
October hits different. Watch baseball at its finest. Postseason 2025. Major League Baseball. Trademarks used with permission.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers kick off their quest for a back-to-back World Series championship tonight at Dodger Stadium against the Cincinnati Reds. Game 1 in the best-of-5 first-round series jumps off at 6. Live coverage on ESPN. Cincinnati starting pitcher tonight is Hunter Green, a young brother who grew up in L.A. The 25-year-old Green is in his 4th season with Cincinnati. The Reds selected Green with the number 2 overall pick in the 2017 Major League Baseball draft. The 6'5" right-hander was a marquee player at Notre Dame High School in Sherman Oaks. In April of 2017, Green was featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated after one of his fastballs was clocked at 102 miles per hour. Green is a product of Major League Baseball's Urban Youth Academy in Compton. Should be an interesting matchup tonight between Green and the Dodgers. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project. Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. inviting you to join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, here on KBLA Talk 1580. As a law school graduate and a theologian with a firm grasp of our body politic given almost 2 decades in Congress, my show is the fresh new home of an authentic, uncompromised quest for transformation and salvation, both personal and collectively, as I vigorously interrogate the theological and symbolic meanings embedded in our society. I promise to leverage my knowledge of history, theology, and both international and domestic issues to imagine an inclusive vision for the future, which I hope will inspire all of us to pursue life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness as a given, not just an aspiration. So join me weekdays at 12 noon, right after Tavis Smiley, for 2 hours of the Jesse Jackson Show, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Clinical research drives medical progress and gives patients access to potentially cutting-edge treatments like CAR T cell therapy, a breakthrough for certain blood cancers that is also being explored for other cancers. To ensure therapies like CAR T benefit everyone, research must include participants from all backgrounds. Historically, Black African Americans have been underrepresented in clinical trials. By participating, you help make treatments more inclusive, equitable, and effective for yourself and future generations. Talk to your doctor about CAR T cell therapy and how you can potentially get involved in clinical research. This message was brought to you by Kite, a Gilead company.
Stop settling for weak sound. It's time to level up your game and bring the boom. Hit the town with the ultra-durable LG X Boom portable speaker and enjoy vibrant sound wherever you go. Elevate your listening experience to new heights because, let's be real, your music deserves it. The future of sound is now with LG X Boom. And for a limited time, save 25% at LG.com with code FALL25. Bring the boom. X Boom.
Do you have $10,000 or more in credit card debt? Are you barely getting by making minimum payments? With credit card debt reaching all-time highs, National Debt Relief is letting everyone know about great debt relief options now available to help people with overwhelming credit card debt. These options may reduce a large portion of your credit card debt. Get a free debt relief consultation when you call 800-259-9922. 800-259-9922. That's 800-259-9922.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. Our very special guest in this hour on Tenacious Tuesdays is always on the grind. She's none other than Attorney Barbara Arnwine, president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, welcome forward to the show.
It's great to be here.
Barbara, can I play this little clip for you right here? And give me your thoughts on this? What we're looking at is ICE and Chicago, where they sprayed tear gas yesterday on the people, and we cheered at the young man on the bicycle. They began chasing him across the street. I realized that the listeners on live radio cannot see the live program, but they can certainly hear my description of what Barbara Arnwine is watching. And so this guy's driving down the street, running with his bike. ICE is chasing him, and just like in the E.T. video, he just takes off right down Record Drive, making, well, ass out of ICE. Barbara, this is, if it weren't so sad, it would just be absolutely great. the presence of ICE in the city. They're saying Yankees go home. Barbara, pandemonium on the streets of America, pandemonium coming to a community near you in the midterm elections. At the same time, people are losing confidence in the alternative party's leadership. This is some kind of made for disaster movie, Barbara.
Yes. And remember, Trump wouldn't be so strong if the Democrats weren't so weak. I mean, that's the other reality. I mean, from the beginning, when he came into power, the Democrats should have solidly said, we are the opposition party. They knew what his game plan was. Project 2025 was out there. They knew what it would do. Their whole conference, their whole convention was about it. Yet to come in and to not declare yourself an opposition party, to talk about how you don't know what to do in this moment, that was disgusting and absolutely inexcusable. I'm sorry, I like a lot of the people in the ranks of the Democratic Party. I like a whole lot of people of all kinds of political persuasions, but I'm going to say this, that if you're dealing with somebody who said they want to be a dictator from day one, and you're not prepared to oppose that person, then don't tell me anything. And don't be talking about, oh, you were too shocked by the results of the election. Come on. You weren't. Some people knew a month ahead of the election what the results were likely to be. So why weren't you planning? Why weren't you doing what needed to be done? I mean, I understand that you had to run the election to win, but why weren't you doing what you should have been doing to oppose who would be the likely winner? And so I just, I find this all disturbing, but there's some positives in this. I think you're going to see you're going to see more of the progressives, taking more authority, more power within the party. I think you're going to see more people running, like Madani. I think you're going to see more people going to other parties, like the Workers' Freedom Workers' Families Party. You're going to see all kinds of other changes because we are in a dilemma. And I just, I'm not being mean towards the Democrats because the Republicans are the worst. And that's where people get confused. They want to talk about the Democrats. Well, let me just talk about the Republicans. They are the worst. And don't ever forget that, because people can rail all day about how the Democrats aren't this, aren't that, but the Republicans are horrid and they aren't doing their job. They're not protecting this government. They are this country. They are just being complicit, cowardly, and worthless, and allowing this president to run over them, to just walk all over them.
Barbara.
And they are so fearful. They're sad. It's ugly. And so let me be clear. As bad as the Democrats can be, the Republicans are worse this moment.
In 2000,
and where's my black Republicans?
Okay.
Where are they, Jesse?
Okay. In 2009, when I was in Congress, the Republicans had a splinter group that peeled off from the Republican Party.
Yes.
That was even more conservative than the traditional Republican Party. They called themselves the Tea Party.
Yes.
And after the Tea Party, we saw the Freedom Caucus begin to form. Then we saw the Liberty Party begin to form, but all under the rubric of the Republican Party.
Yes.
In the Democratic Party, we are subject to regular critique by the Trump administration. They call us crazy lefties. They call us everything, but we've not created within the party a structure for which we can articulate our message.
You got it.
If I ever got the opportunity to serve in Congress, I think I'd set up the Emancipation Party, the Emancipation Coalition within the Democratic Party. We must I don't want to hear about the liberty of women. We must emancipate them. We must emancipate the LGBTQ. We must emancipate the environment from government and private sector control over it. We need an emancipation. We can still be in the Democratic Party, but we need a coalition that is committed to something other than the talking points and the rhetoric of the liberal elite within the Democratic Party. Donald Trump and I have an agreement on that, that within the media, there's a liberal elite that does not go far enough. And they control the media, they control the colleges, they control the universities. They practice knowing everything in the policy arena, but they don't live the lives that we live. So liberty is not enough. For some, liberty means the right to do with themselves as they choose. For others, liberty means to do with other people what they choose to do with them, including not pay them, provide them with health care, provide them with housing, and provide them with the quality of life that they deserve. We need to emancipate ourselves from all of those ideas.
I don't think there's ever a day when I'm going to agree with Donald Trump, and I don't, period. Because all of his stuff is so deceptive and lies and perversions. I'm very clear. People like to talk about the liberal elites, but if the alternative is that you don't teach Black history, that you don't teach women's study, that you under headset tell anybody in the military that they will be discharged if they salute Assata Shakur. Come on, when you start telling people what to think, that's not an alternative. I can't agree with that mess.
I hear you. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.
I'd rather have liberal quote elites than to have this kind of
Jesse
tyranny.
Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Barbara Arnwine on KBLA Talk 1580. More with Barbara Arnwine when we come forward after this brief break.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
September is World Alzheimer's Month, a time to shine a light on a public health crisis that deeply impacts Black families. 1 in 5 Black adults ages 70 and older is living with Alzheimer's disease, or AD, and the risk is twice as high compared to white adults. But AD isn't just forgetting a name or losing track of time. Signs of early AD could be repeating questions, missing appointments, or struggling with bills and daily tasks. These things aren't a normal part of aging. Here's the good news. Treatments are available that may help if AD is diagnosed early. If you notice changes in memory or daily routines, whether in yourself or a loved one, don't wait. Early diagnosis and intervention are key to managing AD effectively. To learn more about AD and a potential treatment option, visit treatalzearly.com. That's treatalzearly.com to learn more about the signs and symptoms and a potential treatment option. This message is brought to you by AZI.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077. 800-919-9077.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Tenacious Tuesdays, and we're on the grind with Barbara Arnwine. Please download our podcast. Download the podcast on KBLA Talk 1580. Those of you who can't see the video, which I had to try my best to describe, can actually see it. Our program is a dynamic show that is produced by KBLA and represented by KBLA. And we're not only audio, we're also visual on YouTube and on podcasting through KBLA. And we're very grateful to Smiley Audio Media for this opportunity. Barbara Arnwine is the president of the Transformative Justice Coalition. Barbara, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Great to be here.
Barbara, you know I'm not going to give you the last word on the liberal elite, so you might as well dig right in and get ready to hear this. In 1973, the Supreme Court ruled in Roe versus Wade that women had these choices. We've had a myriad of Democratic Congresses and Democratic presidents from 1973 to Dobbs. And the liberal elite in the Democratic Party didn't have enough sense to pass a piece of legislation to make the court decision the law of the land. That's a fact. Now,
liberal elites are corporatists.
Liberal
are
elite.
corporatists. Are
Barbara,
corporatists.
we're going to do this the whole segment now. The liberal elite
corporatists.
had
The
plenty of
problem with
opportunities.
the Democratic Party is the corporatist domination.
Well, that's also the liberal elite. They determine who gets money in these campaigns. But let me just get this one point out.
I've been in those rooms.
Barbara, we've been in those rooms, and you
we've
know what?
been in those rooms. That's
the same people,
they don't sit up there and say we like what they
arguing for John Lewis and his voting rights bill had plenty of opportunities, including some Democratic presidents, to extend the Voting Rights Act farther into the future than the extensions that they had.
And they didn't. But that
now we're talking, Barbara.
That was corporatists, not liberal elites.
Well, now then explain to everybody.
You and I aren't. See, we're not disagreeing.
Explain to everybody what a corporatist is, Barbara.
A corporatist is somebody who is controlled by corporate money.
Well, that's the Democratic Party,
and
Barbara.
Exactly. That's what I just said. I see. You and I agree on what's going on, but we disagree on how you term it. You term it liberal elites, and I say it has nothing to do with liberalism. It has everything to do with corporatism, and that's where we differ. Is that I would never characterize it as liberal elites because that's not what it is. It's corporate domination.
Okay, Barbara is my teacher, so I have to. I'm going to get a seat. I'm going to get a seat today.
Listen,
we are absolutely in agreement that money has become a factor in Democratic politics, and that factor is a tragic muting of our voices, our interests, and we're not even thinking anymore. And that's my point about Roe v. Wade. And no legislation to enforce Roe v. Wade. We just relied upon the court until guess what? We no longer had the court and we had no legislation in law. And so we're looking up and women are without choices, right, for their own bodies. And that's true of the Voting Rights Act as well.
And it explains so many, there's so many other things. And listen, I would be And folks, I'm just telling you my personal opinion. This has nothing to do with my professional position, etc. I would be delighted if you were in Congress, because what's missing is leadership. What's missing is real powerful voices, and you would bring that. The one thing that nobody in this world will ever say is not true of Jesse Jackson Jr. One thing they will always say is true of Jesse Jackson Jr. is that he is an independent thinker, that he doesn't just hew a line because the line is there. He thinks. He is not a prophet in that sense, but he is visionary. He sees the future and he cares about how you prepare for the future. A lot of folks don't do that. You and I have talked about it. They're just so busy being Mr. Congressman.
Yeah, that nonsense. That nonsense.
They so busy wanting people to kiss their rings.
I never wore my pin when I was in Congress. That little
Is
pin.
that right?
I never wore it. I got a whole collection of them.
No.
Get to know me. Don't know me by no pin. Y'all know who I am when I walk in the room.
And that's what's so beautiful, because you want to be known for what you do, what you think, and what you advocate for. And a lot of people, they're just, they're in what they call leadership positional power. That's all they know is the position they sit in. They don't know about making that position powerful for the people that they should be representing. That's why, I think that if you were in Congress, if you were bringing your voice there, it would be a different place.
Can I just say this, Barbara?
It would be a better place too, people.
My producer and I, the producer of this show, Gina Towns, who has done such an extraordinary job in creating the show, and I'm not going to talk about this very long.
Thank you, Gina.
Or very much. I enjoy what I presently do. I'm not going to be dishonest, lie about that. I mean, I love the radio. And when I even wrestled with this idea, I said, I would want to take the radio show with me to Congress if I got elected, if I ran. I don't want to be without talking to people and platform. I'm trying to figure out technologically how to be able to do call-ins with this technology so that we can actually talk to more people. But with that said, one of the things I do want to say is this. I believe in hiring people and bringing people in my space who are more intelligent than I am. I'm maybe visionary, but I think like Tavis, I'm a charitable listener. And it's impossible from my perspective to do this job without you. Not only on the radio, but when I was in Washington itself. Barbara Arnwine is a go-to person for 60 Black people in Congress. They all listen to her and some senators because of her advocacy, because of her tenaciousness, because of her commitment. You just do not wake up every day of your life with Barbara Arnwine's spirit, determination, aptitude, intelligence, clarity, and drive. And you are as rare as they get. And so, Barbara, it's just
you're rare.
It's just
and you're more rare, and you're rarer. You're one of the smartest people in this world right now. And thank you for everything that you do. Because see, you were bold and bad enough to run for office, and you're doing it again. And very few people do that, because some of us, as we talked about it, some people do it because their egos are just killing them. Oh my God, they just got to be.
They think it's their time. It's my
time.
time.
My God, they're killing me. They're killing me.
What's the last book you read?
Right.
That I learned from Travis.
and then other people are, they're like you. You're mission driven. You know what needs to happen, and it destroys our spirit when we don't see the right thing happening. We want to make sure that we force it to the power that we have. So that's why, I admire yours. That's why I do your show. That's why I engage with you.
It's our show, Barbara. And to that extent, because we have a little less than 2 minutes, I have to ask you, during these perilous times, can you offer us, other than what you just said, can you offer for us a word of hope?
Yes. I mean, I want to remind people that our people, Black folks, have seen worse. Don't ever get that confused. I was rereading David Walker's appeal. 1829, everybody. 1829. David Walker's appeal. Probably the most radical writing ever by any Black person in the United States. And he wrote it, his appeal is to the colored people of the United States and the world. Is how it's titled. And he, and he saw he had such a vision. He was one of the first people to publicly tell Black folks that white people were inferior in many respects based on our cultural history and past, and to say that that no race was really superior to any other race, and that this whole enslavement that Black people were experiencing at that time was undeserved and was nothing but brutal oppression. He called it out for what he saw. He called for an insurrection throughout the world of enslaved Africans. And as a result of that, without David Walker's appeal, what do you think they wouldn't be? Folks, Nat Turner.
Barbara?
Nat Turner.
Barbara?
All these rebellions in the Caribbean and
Barbara?
elsewhere. Yes.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. This is a KBLA Talk 1580. More with Barbara Arnwine next week. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. More on KBLA.
Thank you.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Misty Jordan with BIN News Now. World leaders are awaiting Hamas's response to a peace plan proposed by
No peace plan.